Hi everyone, Link here from Viking Athletics. Today, what we're going to be talking about is just a quick little seminar on the physical preparation for junior AFL players. And this also can refer to all different types of athletes as well, not necessarily just AFL in that sport. It can be across all basketball, soccer, athletics, rugby, absolutely everything. I'm going to share a couple of different stories in regards to what I've come across with 11 years of high performance in the gym from an S&C point of view, some different stories of AFL athletes that you might be familiar with, and we'll also talk about the structure and what you should be doing with your youth athletes and potentially your children as well. Obviously, it's hard navigating all the different information that comes in from all different sources. This is purely based on what I've seen over the last 11 years. That's enabled a lot of different AFL draftees to come out of the program. So we'll see what we talk about here. And if you do have any questions, please make sure and feel free to contact me externally as well. The main purpose of this is I just want to see and explain the recent trends in AFL players from a junior perspective that got drafted. So that's the 45 I think I've had something to do with over the last few years. We're going to highlight the different training structures for 13-year-olds. I'll also talk about younger as well, because I am aware that we do have some younger athletes in here too. And then offer some solutions and consistent problems that we come across with training schedules, because it is jam-packed when you add in all the school sport, the club sport, and the representative sport as well. So predominantly what I see is for junior athletes, I see a lot of people doing off-season programs and not necessarily carrying that through into the season. So I love 1 month of work doesn't make up for 11 months off. And that's a really big consistent theme that I'm going to have across today is all the successful athletes that I have had the privilege of working with and have seen externally have set themselves up in a really smart way by making sure that they're embedding strength and conditioning and high performance aspects of their performance from a young age and continuing that on. So for ages 8 to 15, it's all about that long-term athlete development, which basically means that we're going to make sure that we're maximizing movement patterns and we're building strength and injury resilience in all different areas. So that means across, general strength, strength endurance. That means in different planes, so vertical, horizontal, lateral, just like all multi-direction sports are played, and that's exposing them to different kind of exercises within the gym in a controlled and coached setting that allows them to do that and experience that. For ages 16 to 17, so before they become an adult, who have had that 2 to 3 years of strength and conditioning experience, we are preparing those athletes to be able to handle the senior athlete's load and intensity. And what that means is generally at that age, if you're a pathway athlete, you're starting to play potentially some senior football with the adults in the senior either local clubs, or you're being invited to these more extreme high performance pathway programs. We need to be able to train you in a way that allows you to do that at a high enough level, as well as stay injury free. We know to become better at your sport, to become a footballer, for instance, we need you to be able to play football. It's no good building you up in the gym and you sitting 2 or 3 years or seasons on the sideline being injured. My job is to prepare you to be able to physically handle the demands of the game as you creep your volume and intensity up as you get older. For athletes who are age 16 to 17 with no prior S&C, the focus is then going to be long-term athlete development. We know we are behind the 8 ball. So most school programs now have general S&C embedded. If they don't, they need to make sure that they're thinking about it. If you haven't been doing any S&C, it's absolutely no worries. You are just going to be a little bit behind because those pathways are starting to obviously show that athletes who are beginning some structured, well-coached S&C, which is designed around that long-term athlete development, those athletes are able to then transition into those pathways a little bit easier. I'm going to quickly go over. So these are just some of the AFL athletes that I've had a privilege of working over the last few years. You can see I've kind of put them in order from most recent who have got drafted, not including the Kobe as well, who obviously got picked up here. We just did some work with him on the curve, and obviously Robbo had a heap to do with him in the early development stage of his football career. But these are some of those athletes. I worked and owned a high performance centre down in Victoria. All of these guys were essentially training with us probably from the ages of 13 upwards. So that's a long time that I was able to work with them, program, coach them, and see and monitor essentially everything over the duration of their S&C like lifestyle career, essentially. So the biggest thing here to take away is that it's not necessary that athletes do complete S&C at a young age, but it is highly recommended because it is that edge, and we are talking about separating the elite from everyone else. So these are just some of the guys that I have been able to work with. Favorite story is Bondi. So Bondi started in the private S&C space when he was about 13. So he was a rowing athlete, but also dabbled in footy. So he's a multi-sport athlete. That's what we call them. Over those 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, he focused and prioritized 3 gym sessions a week minimum. Over that time, we obviously focused on long-term athlete development, whereas maximizing movement patterns, but gaining strength, becoming injury resilient. As he progressed, he's obviously an incredibly well-developed athlete by the time he was 17 or 18. I remember bench pressing with him just before he got drafted to the Crows. We were doing a session together. I think I had 130 or 140 on the bar, and Bodney almost had the exact same. So as a 17, 18-year-old, he was extremely strong, but only because he had that 5 years of gym experience behind the belt. When he went to the combine, he actually tweaked his groin, so he missed the combine testing, which was a huge blow because we did spend a lot of time from a 20-meter sprint, a vertical jump, and our agility testing. We integrate that into our strength and conditioning program. So we did do a lot of that, but luckily, his performance on the field over the last few years of representative football was enough for him to be able to get picked up number 50 in the draft. The coolest story and part of this story is that day one that he was at Adelaide Crows, he started the gym program with all the other rookies, the first and second year players, and the S&C essentially said, mate, you've got a great base, you can go train in the gym with the senior boys. So that's the kind of pathway that we want to be able to help junior athletes be able to get to. As soon as they walk into the door, if they're lucky enough to get drafted, they are able to go into that program having experience, proper strength and conditioning, coach S&C, they move really well, and already they're going to be rewarded with that effort. It's not just about being a really great footballer in those early years. It's being able to apply yourself. And what a long history of strength and conditioning has is that athlete being able to show up week in, week out, all year round, being able to do those 3 gym sessions and just learn and accumulate all those hours. Very much like kicking a footy, the more time you spend in the gym, you're going to get better at it. The stronger you can get, the more powerful you can get as well. From our gym S&C side, here we can see Ollie Hannaford. I worked with him, especially working on his change of direction. So that little video was just him doing a 505 test, and he won the agility test at the combine for his year. So that was pretty special. We spend a lot of time fine-tuning the testing side of things, so making sure that we're as technically as efficient as possible in doing those. Harry Sharp, obviously, he was one of the athletes at the centre at the time. So the 2K record, obviously a phenomenal runner, but just had that incredible understanding of how his body moves and that body awareness to be able to obviously do what he does best, and that's that aerobic capacity and that running. And then obviously we love just when athletes come back into the gym, who we work with so many years, and we put up with the hormones and everything else that being an adolescent has, and then obviously seeing them being rewarded with games of AFL or within the system is pretty cool. So a couple of little case studies here. So the boys were a little bit different. So Hugh and Jonty, who plays for Richmond, they were a minimum of 3 gym sessions all year round. And this is how they kind of separate it. So you can see off-season, pre-season, and they had a day off in between where they either focused on skills or did their conditioning. And then in season, we modified that a little bit where Monday becomes a recovery and upper body day. Wednesday is our total body, and then Friday is our total body primer. And then down below, Harry Charlson, who got rookie to Carlton, and then Ollie again. These boys just love being consistent. Ollie was literally in the gym at 6 a.m. every single morning, especially in his draft year, but he was 5 sessions per week, and we split it like that. So Monday main session, Wednesday main session, Friday main session, then Tuesday and Thursdays were accessory and mobility. So you can see there are two different approaches. All four boys obviously got drafted, so we know that that works, but it is one of those things where depending on what that athlete wants, we can make sure that we are able to program specifically for them on how many sessions they want to be able to do. And as long as it's supporting what they're trying to do on the field, then we'll make our best efforts for that. And then Sammy, so lucky that we did some online stuff and saw Sammy a little bit. But yeah, he was mainly an online athlete. And then Joel was online as well. So there are ways that we can work around and do online programming for athletes. Gold standard is always going to be have a coach standing next to you watching you do your lift. That is gold standard across any type of thing. We know that all athletes, all great athletes have those coaches who are there face to face. But if you cannot make it, then absolutely you can achieve that in other ways, and that's online S&C, regular communication with coaches, etc., etc. So 3 to 5 gym sessions all year round. We already talked about what those kind of focuses are for the junior athletes. And again, this is how I generally program our 5 sessions for any AFL athletes, especially that 16, 17 or 18 years of age. So in-season schedule and off-season schedule, these can change. Obviously, footy training, the main focus is always going to be footy training. That's how we become better footballers. The S&C is just there to support that kind of athlete development to be able to do footy training really, really well. So us building up the athletic requirements and the physical capabilities of the athlete to be able to tolerate all that training and games as well. The biggest thing is that in-season, a lot of athletes don't want to do their gym sessions. And remember, 1 month of work does not make up for 11 months off. And it's so critical at that 15, 16, 17, the athletes are still getting their gym work in. That is how we prevent little injuries from happening. And it is proper work. It's not just going to the gym and lifting random weights, bench pressing every day, squatting every day. It is making sure that they're following an AFL specific program designed for them. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned working with thousands of athletes over the last 11 years is that the guys that succeed and stay on the park and play enough footy to be recognised and to get drafted into these different pathway programs are the ones who follow a really well-structured program designed for them. And that's what it's all about. And again, so injuries and role of S&C. So Jonty was I actually played a game of footy with Jonty 2 years ago, just before he got drafted. So he played at my local club that I was playing with. So not only was I one of his S&C coaches, I was also one of his peers on the field. So sensational athlete, but in his draft year, he did pick up a stressy in his back. So it was about 6 months off. He obviously being incredibly frustrated, he was a pathway athlete, so the eyes were on him early, but obviously after a little while it does take its toll in missing that final year and the majority of the final year of footy that you're going to play before you potentially could get drafted. But Jonty was awesome. He followed a rehab plan that we set aside, 5 days per week, 3 main gym sessions and then 2 conditioning sessions. Injury rehab is all about making sure that the athlete is ready to get back onto the park and perform like they need to, and that does come with some conditioning, so you can still get your high intensity intervals, your aerobic work in being injured. You just need to be a little bit smart about it and work around that injury type. So this is one of my cool stories that, Jonty worked his absolute butt off to get back into the position where he played a few games in the back end of 2024, and then obviously got drafted to Richmond and played this year, played consistently throughout this year, kicked a few goals and was sensational. So that's what S&C can do for junior athletes. And the biggest thing to remind yourself here is that all I'm trying to preach is that depending on the experience and level and age of the athlete is dependent on how we program for them. Making sure that we still insist on athletes doing S&C all year round. It should be something that they're doing consistently. It's not random gym programs at school or in their own time. It is something structured. It is periodized. It has moments where we're high volume, high intensity, moments where we're deloading. In finals time, we're starting to peak the athlete for different performances that they need to do, and then also trying to tie in all the other multi-sport athletes as well. So whether that's basketball or athletics or OzTag, those kind of things, we need to make sure that working with an S&C coach one-on-one whether that's online or face to face. It just makes all of those things a little bit easier. So S&C embedded early is always going to be beneficial to junior athletes. We know that, we have the data for that, and if it's done in a really safe way, then that athlete is going to be stacking those days upon days in their early years, where it then counts when they're 17, 18, 19, either playing in the AFL or playing in local footy in the senior level, where they're yards and yards in front of their opponents because they have embedded these really high performing habits into their weekly life from a young age. Remember, please, this is only supposed to be short, a little glimpse of what I believe needs to be done from a junior athlete S&C point of view. If you have any questions, please reach out directly to me. I'm more than happy to answer all of them. Apart from that, you have the most amazing time over Christmas, and we'll chat to you all very soon again.